So Dr. Raynor, it's great to see you. I've been watching your YouTube channel for a couple of years now. I think I was first introduced to it when you did the series on Deadliest Warrior.
Yes.
Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your Human 2.0 project, and just go from there.
Sure. So my name is Dr. Raynor, Chris Raynor. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I've been practicing in Ottawa for about 15 years now. And I'm also the co-owner with my wife of Human 2.0. Human 2.0 is a movement and rehabilitation center where we focus primarily on active rehabilitation and movement literacy and mobility skills. And what we're trying to do there or here is to empower people to be able to learn the skills so that they can take the rehabilitation into their own hands and they can basically treat their own injuries in an active manner. And this is not to say that people don't have injuries that are more severe than can be treated by themselves, or that they don't require surgery, but there is a very wide range from wellness to injuries that require surgery. So there's a huge range of things in between there. And many of those things, with the right guidance and the right education, people are able to address those things themselves. And so we want to give people the skills and the knowledge that will allow them to do that.
You've really leaned into the education side of things lately with your YouTube channel, such as the most recent video being all about bisphenol A and plastics and microplastics. I was really impressed with some of the production quality, all of the graphs and the data that you were able to bring all into a video, and even I thought it was a professional level of clickbait on that to the most recent title.
Yeah.
Leaning into the conspiracy side, it's definitely going to get some good SEO on that one. But
thank you.
We recently had several people talk to one of the Canadian government policy advisors on climate and plastics.
Yes.
About a film Plastic People here in Ottawa and during the United Nations event that happened, and I appreciate that you're talking about it.
Yes.
What are some of the other things that you try to educate people on here?
Well, so being an orthopedic surgeon, when I first started the channel, I wanted to keep everything in the orthopedic realm, because that's my wheelhouse, so that's where I'm comfortable. But as the channel started to grow and evolve, I recognized that in order for, number one, I love education. And so I enjoy being able to educate people and make everyone that listens to my content smarter. But number two, I started to realize that orthopedics, sports medicine, is a relatively narrow niche, right? And so it limits, although what I teach people, or the content that we provide, I think is universally applicable to everybody. Orthopedic sports medicine content, that's a niche. And only the people who are really interested in that niche are going to click and listen to my information. So I started to think, well, I need to be a little bit more broad-based with the content that we provide. And although I'm an orthopedic surgeon, I am a physician, and I did have general medical training. And so it doesn't necessarily make me an expert in those general medical topics, but I can speak to some degree on those topics. And while I may not be an expert, to the vast majority of people to whom I'm speaking, I will know more about that topic than will they. And so although my content may not be suitable to an expert, it's going to be suitable to almost everybody else, yes. Right? Like to 80% of the population. So I just started to think, I need to make my content more generally applicable. And so we've started to venture out to other areas and to other medical content. And so my goal is, obviously, again, because of comfort, I will try to keep things more towards the surgical orthopedic side. But there's so much other things that I can help people to understand that is not within my wheelhouse, that I think that the opportunity for education is there. And I think it's important to help people to understand these things, right? And even if I am not necessarily speaking about all of these topics at a very, very high expert level, I can still speak to it at a level that is good enough so that the average Joe can get a sense, oh, what is this thing that microplastics, what are they talking about? BPA, what is that? Well, I can give people a general understanding and then help them to understand, well, why is this thing a problem, and why are physicians or why is the government getting all up in a tizzy about that particular thing? So that's kind of the goal and the direction in which we have sort of turned the channel. And now, as I grow the channel, and I'm making some money from the channel, I invest all of that money that I make back into the channel. So sometimes that's, oh, I need a new camera, I need a new microphone, sometimes. But most of the time, the largest expense is for me to hire people, right? And so now I have several writers. I have 2 new writers that I'm sort of auditioning and trialing. But I have several writers for the program whose job is to, once we come up with a concept and I come up with the direction that I want to go with that concept, it's their job to write the script, to do the background research and to write the script that supports what we talked about in our discussion and the direction that I want to go. And it's their job, for the most part, to come up with the supporting literature. I will say to them, this is where I want you to look. This is what I think is appropriate for that. But it's their job to take the general idea, narrow it down, write the script, have the supporting literature, and also the supporting B-roll. And they don't get all of that, but sort of the main stuff that is supposed to support the conversation, that is their responsibility. So I have those people to do that. I have a main editor, but we're now going to start, we've started to canvas and we have somebody that we're going to trial for shorts because shorts is another tool to help to gain exposure to our long form content.
It's very effective.
Yeah, so we're going to have an editor dedicated specifically to that. I now have a separate thumbnail creator, right? Because many of these jobs before were covered by one person, right?
Yes.
So as we've grown now, we've branched those out. So several writers, the editor, shorts editor, thumbnail editor. Oh, and I have a creative director. So that's the person with whom I spend the most amount of time. And he and I will talk about what topics we're going to do, in what order we're going to do them. And then we'll sort of narrow down, when we come to a particular topic, what's the angle that we want to cover? And what are the appropriate resources that we can go to get the information. So I'll discuss that with him. And then he will, once we've sort of crystallized a concept, then we'll hand that off to each of the different writers. And now that we have several writers, we've realized that each of those different writers has a different sort of tone and flavor. And each of them is good at different things. So the one writer that we have that we're trialing now, like he has he's completing his PhD now. So this is very high science level. So for him, he worked on the BPA. Right. Okay, so this is perfectly for him, right? Like at that level of detail, very good. Then we have somebody who is their full-time job as a journalist. They're very good at sort of middle of the road, current hot topics kind of writing.
Did they do the grizzly bear one?
Exactly. Yeah. So not super in-depth science, but they can speak to science stuff. So we did that. And then we have somebody else who's kind of in the middle of those two, and that writer is very much has a philosophical bent. So anything where we're talking, we want to cover the science, but we also want to talk about what's the societal impact of this. Exactly. That's very good for that writer. And actually, I just filmed something which will be coming out I'm not sure. It'll probably be coming in about a month because this one is going to be really long. It's about Brian Johnson and longevity. So Brian Johnson is a guy who's working on Project Blueprint, but he's all about like living for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Thwarting death.
That's quite
that's his mission.
It's quite the rabbit hole.
Yeah. So that one we gave to this third person writer, and it's very philosophical. So there's lots of philosophical questions because in addition to all of the science impacts of longevity and anti-aging, there's also the social impact. Like, what is the social impact? Like, what happens if we all live forever?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what is the impact of that, and how does that influence how we interact with one another? How does that influence, how do we feed all of these people? How do we house all these people? How do we stop all of these people from fighting with one another and wars from going? So there's all these things. So
how do you manage risk when you get to that level? Then you wonder if you can even cross the road.
No, exactly, right? So all of these things, we now have many different flavors and many different tones with the writers. So we'll disseminate the topics, and then once they're done, they'll give it back to me to review. And so I'll review, and then I make the changes that I either to the science content because I don't really like that, or I don't agree with that, or I don't think the data supports that. So sometimes I soften the tone a little bit, or sometimes I'll make the tone a little bit more. If I think, yes, we have literature to support that, then I might make the tone more critical or whatever. And then also, I'm just a jackass. So I want to put a little bit of my own flavor in there. And so sometimes I will just make things a little bit more in tune with my sense of humor, right? Yeah. And all of the writers that we have are quite good. They've watched my content for long enough, or been part of the group for long enough, so they understand kind of what my sense of humor is like. So they put a lot of that in there anyway, but sometimes I add a little spice, and then I make the changes, and then once I've made the changes, film it, and then I hand it off to our editor. And our main long form editor, DJ, I gotta say, he's like all of the group that we have working with us is great. DJ is really awesome. He's awesome because I've known DJ in a number of different roles, but I've known him for a very long time. And so he knows my sense of humor. He's also, because he's of Jamaican heritage, he understands my personal sense of humor. He also understands my sort of cultural humor as well. And then he's a stickler for detail, and he is he has very good sense of visual aesthetics, right? So he knows what looks good. So I can just leave things with him, and he'll just make it look good, right? And so I've been fortunate to have this group of people, but they all work together to help create the magic.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how much work it is and how many people it takes to do such a good quality production. You're coming up on 700,000 on your channel. Did you think it was going to be that popular when you started? I know we hope, but
I didn't know, and I really hoped that it would be. Because I had two sons that were YouTubers that were popular in their own right, I knew what was the power of YouTube. I just didn't know if I would be able to get to that myself. But now, seeing where we're at, I do think that is possible. Also, I've had some reassurance from Google and from YouTube themselves. A couple of weeks ago, I was invited by YouTube Canada to be one of the speakers on a panel because they're trying to create this an educational platform for medical content in Canada. They're doing this around the world, but each country sort of has their own group. And so now they're working on developing the Canadian group, and they enjoy my content. And so they asked me to speak on this panel with several other content creators. And the thing that tells me, and and we talked about numbers and analytics. And I said to them, geez, I'd like to be bigger. I'm not that big right now. And they said, number one, subscribers is a vanity metric. It really looks nice, but it's not the end all and be all. People do really well financially on YouTube with not high numbers of subscribers. So they said, number one, that's a vanity metric. But they said, when you look at the behind the scene analytics, they said that I am doing well and I'm punching above my weight. So for me, when I look at the longevity of the channel and what is possible, that is reassuring. And I said to them, I look to other content creators, like say for example, Dr. Mike, who is a big American content creator. He has 12 million subscribers right now, right? And so I said to him, well, I want to be the orthopedic version of Dr. Mike. And not necessarily in terms of his tone or his content, but just in terms of his volume and his size. And they said, that shouldn't be a problem. So when people who are at YouTube Canada tell me that, then I'm like, okay. If they think that can happen, then it's like, okay, number one, I'm headed on the right track, and number two, I think that that is possible.
Let me ask you about your dad. I see in our lobby when we come in always the dedication to your dad, and it's got a beautiful face. He's just a beautiful soul, you can tell.
He was a wonderful man. It's funny, my father was a very hardworking man. He instilled in me a desire to work very hard. And my father was the oldest of 10. When he was young, he had to leave Jamaica to go to the UK to work to send money home for his family. So that is the mindset that he grew up with, and that's what he passed on to myself. And he always worked hard. I never saw or thought or remembered a point in time when my father wasn't working hard. And when I was young, my father was a harsh man. Not because I think he was a harsh man by nature. I think he was a harsh man because just of the situation. Like, he had always wanted to go to higher learning. He had always wanted these things for himself, but he always had a responsibility first to his siblings at home, and then he had children, and then to his children. But as he got older and matured, he softened. And when I was studying, when I was young, my father would because he only had a grade 10 education, he couldn't really help me with my homework per se, but he could instill in me a love of reading. And we would read together, we would do Reader's Digest together, and he would quiz me on the words in Reader's Digest. So we would do that. And when I went to university because I wanted to, but I didn't just go to university for myself. I went to university for my family. I wanted to be the first one in our family to go to university. And I wanted to be able to, my father would live vicariously through me, and I wanted to be able to bring that to him. And so at every stage, when I got my undergraduate degree, my master's degree, education, and then medicine, at every stage, that was a collective an accomplishment, right? Because I couldn't have done it without the sacrifices that he made. And it's funny because my father was, as I said, a little bit harsh when I was young, but as he softened when he grew older, and in particular once I had my children and he had grandchildren, man, he was just such a gentle bear. and my father was like, I wouldn't have said when I was young that he was kind, but when he was older, when I was older and I had kids, my father was the kindest man. He would do anything for anybody. Like anybody at the church, they would ask him stuff. My father would drive he would drive hundreds of kilometers to help them out because he had this van. And so he would help people out move and stuff. Anyway, so he would do all of that. And he was just always smiling and just, yeah, he was a good guy. So it's nice to have him here.
Exactly.
He's not alive anymore to see it, but I think he sees it, to be able to see what together we accomplish.
Together, exactly. Speaking of together, across the back wall over there, I see NHL players that have been H2O for a long time, 2014, 2016, that they came to.
We keep those up. Those guys are all like those. So there are a lot of CFL players. There's some Paralympians that are up there. And these are just people that have trained with us throughout the years. And like all of those people have basically retired from what they do now. They're not playing football anymore or whatever. But that was when I started Human 2.0. My mantra was that we are all athletes. Every single one of us, whether we are professional athletes, whether we're just grandma who is just trying to play with her grandkids, whatever. We're all athletes. The sport we play is different, but when I look at rehabilitation, I want to treat everybody as if they're an athlete. And I'm going to try the best that we can collectively to get them back to their sport. And if their sport is walking to the grocery store and carrying their groceries, that's their sport. But I want to make them the damn best grocery carrier that I can.
Or DJs on CKCU 93.1 FM.
That's right. Or
Bring
DJs,
me back.
then I want to make them the best that I can at that. So, we put that up. That was actually a patient, one of my patients, who said, it would be great to have a place where you could celebrate people's accomplishments, and so he said that to me one day. I was like, oh man, that's a great idea. So I just started to put them up there, And
we're going to send you a picture for up there.
All right, no worries.
Because being a DJ definitely is a sport.
That's right. That's all right. We don't mind that.
We need to tell the audience a little bit about Human 2.0.
Sure. So as I said, it's a rehab place. So it's a gym in well, it's not a gym. It's a rehab and movement facility in Ottawa. Has a total of 6,500 square feet, of which 5,000 of that is the gym. And this place was a box when we first came here. And when I set this place up, we had an architect that designed it for us. And I said to her, I'm a gym rat. I love being in the gym. I was a collegiate athlete. I spent much of my time in the gym. Said, I want to have a place that people understand is a place where we like, you need to work. When you come here, this is a place of work. Okay? And this is not to say like that there aren't other ways of doing therapy. So be it. Maybe there are. But what I focus on is active movement and getting people to work and participate in their rehabilitation. So I said to the architect, yes, it's a gym. I want it to be a gym, and that needs to be the focus of what we do. So that's why 5,000 of the 6,500 square feet is dedicated to the gym. But I said, obviously, it's owned by a physician. It's owned by an orthopedic surgeon. So it's got to look nice. It can't just be I would work out in a dungeon. I'm used to doing that. I did that at Western for many years. But I said the average person is not going to come and want to work in a dingy dungeon, dark, musty dungeon. So it's got to look good. So 5,000 square foot gym. We're big proponents of mobility and movement. So we have 3,200 square feet of turf space where people can move. I am a big proponent of people getting on the floor, getting down on the ground. And I do not believe, because someone is elderly that they shouldn't do that. I have pictures in our social media content folder where everybody, when they come here, they do what we do. We will scale exercises up or down. So if you are like an elite level athlete, we'll scale things up. If you are a little old grandma, we will scale things down. But we don't take things out. We don't change what we're doing. We scale it appropriately to your skill level or your strength, but everybody does what we do. And so I'm very proud of the fact that I have pictures. I've got like 75-year-old grandma, and she is on the squat rack. We put a barbell on her back, and she's squatting. Now, granted, her range of motion is not necessarily the same as everybody else, nor is the weight that she is pressing. But like, everybody has to sit down to go to the toilet. They have to sit down onto a chair. So there's no reason why I couldn't make her do that, right? And I think that having everybody do everything that we do, number one, it makes them all inclusive. They're part of the group. They can do what everybody else is doing. Number two, they have a sense of accomplishment, right? Because I have so many patients that are older and they go, oh, geez, I have not been able to get down on the floor for so many years. Man, that is the kiss of death to people when they tell me that. Because the first thing that I do when they tell me that is I say, oh, come on out here. I want to do something. I want to check something. And when they tell me that, I walk out. The next thing that I do is I walk out there and I walk out to the gym, and then I make them get down on the floor. And then they're like, well, aren't you going to help me up? Well, not really. We're going to sit here and figure it out. Because what happens when you fall down and I'm not there? Nobody's around, right? I don't want you to be one of these people who comes in on the ambulance after they've been on the floor for 3 days. So we have a big movement space. We have lots of weight. We have, I think we have like 2,500 pounds of dumbbells. We have another 6,000 pounds of Olympic weights. And we have rings, ropes, all those kinds of things, because we need to teach people how to push themselves, how to pull themselves, how to lift themselves up on stuff, how to let themselves down to the ground, how to move around, on all fours if need be, or how to get up from laying or supine or a position when they're on the floor, getting up using one hand, two hands if they have it, but if they don't, maybe they can only use one hand because they fell and they broke their wrist, or maybe they have no hands. How are you going to get up? We need to teach people all these things. So this is basically what we are trying to teach people here, and we are trying to get people to recognize the full extent, full potential of their bodies,
wherever they're at,
and wherever they're at, right? And we want people to recognize that many of the limitations that they have are self-imposed, right?
I noticed that with mine.
Yes, and so we want to get people to a mindset, into a space where they go, oh, yeah, I can do that. I might not be able to do that today, but with enough time and appropriate guidance and work, I can get to do that at some point in time, right? So that's what Human 2.0 is about, and that's what we're trying to teach people.
What I love is the fact that when I came in after my surgery, I was being pampered and babied by the family, and I had a caregiver looking after me, and I was spoiled rotten. And it was definitely, oh, could you pass me that? And stuff like that was going on. And I knew I was misbehaving. And I remember coming in and I'm going, oh gosh, I'm having such a hard time with stairs. And you said, well, it's because you're going to have to build up some glute. Mm-hmm. I said, I got lots of glute back there. And you said, yeah, but none of it's muscle. And that endeared you to me on so many different levels, because I thought, yeah, he gets it. So of course I had to, work on my glute. Yeah. But it was just one of those moments. Also, what I found was the physio to get me back to moving did have a lot to do with me believing that I could do it.
For sure.
The first time I had my right hip, folks, I had my right hip replaced for Christmas. December 20th, that was my Christmas present from Dr. Raynor. And within a couple of weeks, I was standing on it, as in standing in the shower, lifting one leg to get in or the other, and doing things where I'm actually standing on the leg that they just did all this stuff to. And that was the belief that, yeah, I'm okay. It's going to be all right. And for me, after 6 surgeries, this was my 6th of the year, I was feeling it. I was worried. I was, what do you call it? PTSD, you know, too many surgeries. Speaking with you out in the waiting area before I went in for my surgery, listening to you actually recording one of your podcasts while I'm on the gurney. And we went in, and the staff. Now, I went to Cornwall for my surgery because I didn't want to wait. And Cornwall, they were magnificent, fabulous folks. And I was so impressed with their professionalism. I said, gee, Dr. Raynor, you're so lucky to work with all these great people. And you said, well, maybe they're lucky to work with me. And they all laughed. They all just cracked. They died. They just died. Also,
They're a good game for sure.
They were out, absolutely. And I shocked them because, of course, as soon as I came in, I started singing. And I wanted them all to know that I'm a singer. Make sure I'm a singer when I leave. Make sure I'm a singer coming in. Make sure I'm a singer.
That's right.
You know, when I go. And they did, absolutely. But I have to say that my life has changed. For so long, 7 years, I was limping, pain, limping. Mm-hmm. And to be done with that. Now, my gait may not be perfect yet, but it's getting there. And definitely. I'm at a point now where I've dropped the cane for the most part. If I'm going to be on my feet for a long period of time, I will bring the cane for that extra support. But for the majority of it, I'm no longer even walking with a cane.
Yep.
Like, this is unheard of. In my mother's day, unheard of.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it's interesting, you know, because I have my general orthopedic training, but I have a fellowship. Like these days, many people have like two fellowships, sometimes even 3. For myself, I have a single fellowship, but it's in arthroscopy and sports medicine. And so when I was finished, that's what I wanted to focus on. And certainly now, it's about 50% of my practice. But I do work in a community hospital. So as a community physician, I had to do some of everything. And I was really reticent when I first started to start doing joint replacements. I was like, man, I don't want to do that stuff. Like, I want to just do the cool sports stuff, right? But I will tell you, I have... the joint replacements have become a very beloved part of my practice now because of something that you just said. And in particular, the hip replacement and the anterior approach to hip replacements is one of my favorite procedures. And I remember them saying something during residency, and I didn't really believe it until I experienced it myself, and I wholeheartedly believe this now. And I remember them saying how when they looked at the success rate of various surgeries, there's the actual success rate with respect to, you know, restoration of function and restoration of range of motion and all of that. But one of the factors that they look at when they're assessing success rate is patient satisfaction, and so each surgery has a range when it comes to satisfaction after that procedure that patients have, and the number one by a long shot procedure for patient satisfaction is total hip arthroplasty. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I didn't think that. But now, having done it, you know, and having done, you know, several hundreds of them and seeing how they change people's life, I often say to people, and I may have said this to you, I don't recall, but I say to people, this is the only procedure that I do, the only one, where the moment that your anesthesia wears off or you wake up, if you wake up, if you've had a general, or the freezing comes out after you've had a spinal, this is the only procedure where I do where you instantaneously go, it's gone.
The pain's gone.
It's gone. Like this is like
Wow.
it is so rewarding to take that
I
away from
high-fived
people.
an 89-year-old woman in the way, you know, the what do they call it, recovery
Yeah,
area?
yeah.
And she was doing her walk, and I was getting up from my walk, and we high-fived each other as we were walking past. Like, it was just such a good feeling.
Exactly. Like, and so that to me, I think is such a, like, it's rewarding for the patient, but it, to me, like that, to know that I could have a part in facilitating that, that is rewarding to me. And to be able to see the smiles on people's faces when they go, oh my God, it's gone. It's gone. Right? Then, like, yeah, that's just wonderful. It's a wonderful thing.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
No worries. And thank you guys for you know, asking me to participate and interviewing me. I always say this, anytime anybody wants to listen to me talk, I'm amazed, man. So I think it's the coolest thing ever. I'm amazed that I could say anything that's of import or value enough that people would listen. So I never take that for granted. So like I'm very humbled by the fact that you guys would ask me to participate.
So before we close off, I want to ask you, what's your favorite stuff to listen to music-wise?
So I have a very eclectic music taste. I listen to a little bit of everything. I don't really listen to country that much. No, that's the only thing I don't really listen to.
Yeah.
But I listen to almost everything else. But true to my roots and my culture, my biggest thing is dancehall reggae. Like I love listening to, I was a hip hop kid. I grew up on listening to hip hop and I love hip hop. You know, and maybe this is a sign of me getting older, but as I mellow out, I guess, as my father did, I just love listening to reggae music, and especially the roots rock kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like Beres Hammond, man, oh my God, man, you could throw on Beres Hammond. It just makes me feel like like just sitting on the beach, looking at the waves, just, you know, in the sunshine. It just makes me feel like I'm in Jamaica, you know. It makes me feel at home. So I love different things, but that's my favorite by far.
Thank you.
No worries.